Pro NoCoders Office Hours, episode 264. I am your host, Cameron, and I am here today with John. Before we get started, if this is your first time tuning in, we do this 6 times per week where we invite our members onto Zoom and they can ask us any bubble-related questions, have bugs, comments, concerns, so on and so forth. We can't promise answers, but we do promise you at least will not suffer alone, and we tend to get it right most of the time. So let's go ahead and get started. John, you're here with me today. What are we doing for you?
I didn't have anything because I was just going to show Tonya something that I've managed to, I think, solve that we'd been working on last week. But given that I've got you on and you are the API guru, then I wonder if we can do something that I've been putting off for ages, which is, and I know you know how to do this because I've seen a video of you do it, which is I have the Google Search Console API set up, which is all OAuth 2. That all works fine. But the bit I've been putting off, because I'm doing the non or self-authenticated rather than Bubble's built-in job, is I haven't yet tackled the handling the refresh token to get a new token every 3,500 and whatever it is seconds.
Gotcha.
And I know I saw you do a video on exactly that. So maybe we could, if you're all right, we could use the time to do that, if that was all right.
I'd love to help you out, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go ahead and share your screen and show us your API backend and see what we're dealing with there?
Yeah. So I'll just take your screen if that's all right.
Yeah. Hello, Tonya. Welcome.
Hi, I'm only here briefly just to make sure everything is good and you're good to take this one on your own.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Is that right?
He's getting by, Tonya. He's getting by.
Okay, good. And then, John, are those hours right now?
Yes, they are. And I like your new funky icons as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was just looking at that on Twitter, apparently from Pablo, switched it up. So perfect.
So I've got something. If you've got 2 seconds, Tonya, let me show you something. So we've been doing the we want the customer to be able to, or the user to be able to pick the date range, and we had 7 days, 28 days, 2 months, 3 months, etc. And that was getting a little bit sort of complex in terms of what we had to do. So I said, I'll just change it to be days. So 7, 30, 60, 90, etc. I just thought I'd show you that I'm very proud of myself. So I have built my own plugin, the first one. So I copied, there's one on the plugin marketplace that is free and you can see the code. So I built my own version using that, and then I've modified it. So the original one, you go in here, it does this, but this doesn't work for me because today would be today. Whereas if you remember in my case, it will be the date from the API, which would be 2 or 3 days ago. Yesterday would have the same problem. Tomorrow is in the future, so that doesn't work. Last 7 days would be okay, but that would be from today backwards, blah, 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 blah. So none of that really works. So I have modified it. So I can go in and do most recent day. And at the moment, I've just got it sort of hard-coded in the back end rather than talk to it. But what you'll notice is that is not the most recent day. That is a couple of days ago, because I'm telling it to do today's date minus 2 days, where in reality it will be the API that will give me that. I'm calculating the range between the days, so because I need to use that to do the prior period view. I can do the last 3 days, and that should give me the last 3 days. I can do custom ranges, all these dates in the future, and I can add last 12 months. I can add whatever I want in here. And it's all controlled through, a lot of it is controlled through here. So I can go in and say what periods I want to show in the front end. And then this is where I set what that max end date is. So that will be the date from the API, what the min date is. So I can say I only want them to be able to go back in here. Hang on, bloody thing's in the way. How do I get rid of that? I only want them to be able to go back when they're in this custom range. They can only go back 3 months max. Where was it? I can set the max date, which is, I think the max date controls the calendar and the end date controls the the picker down the side, etc., etc. So there you go. I just thought I'd show you.
That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to curse because we're recording.
Relatable. Yeah.
But well effing done.
Yeah.
Really good. That's awesome.
So I think that solves the problem, and most of it's handled in the code in the back end. So I don't need to do any workflows or option sets or setting of states or anything like that.
Awesome. Well done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing me that.
That's all right.
All right. I'm going to hop off and let you guys get to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tanya, you have a good one.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
Bye. Right, Cameron, let me show you what we're dealing with. So let me move you wherever I put us. We're going to be in the way, aren't we?
Typically.
So ignore the other two. So ignore Google page speed and ignore sending blue, although we can perhaps have a chat about Google page speed in a minute. So this one, Google Search Console Self. So if I expand this, you'll see all these are just doing stuff to go off and get the data I need, but it's these that we're dealing with: access token and refresh token, authorization. So it's all very standard Google OAuth. There's nothing special about it just because it's the Search Console stuff. So if I show you that, and I show you the refresh token, etc. So all of this works fine. And at the moment, as you know, I have to go through and sort of go in on a URL, get a new value here for a code, initialize the call, generate this, and put this in with the bearer, and that then authorizes me for an hour. But I've not done, like I say, I've done none of the workflow stuff to do this automatically for the user and keep the token alive. Because I wanted to speak to you about it because I thought it'd be a lot easier for you to help me with it.
Yeah, totally. I like you said, have experience with this. It's been a while, but I mean, the concepts between Google and every other service is pretty similar. Now, what I want to do first is you have your access token call. You should be able to manually enter the API response there on the bottom right. You should see that, and then it will give us the actual response, what it actually provides us. And I want to make sure that it provides us the refresh token, doesn't it? It provides us the access token and then the token type. Okay, cool. And so we'll click out of this. And then we're going to go and click on that refresh token. We're going to do the same thing. Scroll down to the refresh token call. Go ahead and click on that. And that gives us the access token again. Okay. And it tells us it expires in 3,599 seconds. Not a whole lot of time, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Not a problem. Let's cancel out of that. So the idea here is that we're supposed to be given a refresh token. We're going to pass that refresh token in, or actually we're given an access token. We're going to pass that access token in to get a refresh token. And typically then we take that refresh token, we pass it in again to then get another access token, rinse and repeat. And that's the way that it should work here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think because if you were expecting to see a refresh token in this response, if I remember right, and I think I learned this from you, that because I've not used the refresh token bit for ages, I only ever set this to just to get in and play around and do what I need to do while I'm accessing the API. So I think I remember you saying that if I go to myaccounts.google or whatever it is, and I need to deauthorize the application because it only gives you the refresh token the first time, I think is what you said. Is that right? Or something?
It could be right. It's been a while since I've worked with it last, but it wouldn't be too far off the mark for Google to do something sort of silly like that.
I'm sure I remember something about, because I have had to go in here every now and again and remove this, which is the name of my app effectively, from having access. And that has then allowed me to sort of reset the API back to the beginning.
Yep. So yeah, when we get that access token initially, it should return us a refresh token. So we should be able to store that refresh token on the user profile.
Yeah.
And then simply just pass in that user or that refresh token, we're looking at right now, the refresh token parameter, which would then pass us in an access token. So we should be able to see that through reinitializing the first call, I believe. Now, what's interesting though is click on that manually enter API response again for me on the first call.
For this one.
Yeah. So it gives us the access token, then it just gives us the expires and then token type. Okay.
And I suspect this might be what I'm on about, because I've obviously got this refresh token from somewhere to start with. So it must have come back in one of the responses at some point.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and it's typically returned during the access token.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be here. So yeah, you did save it. You obviously had to use it. Being that it is the second call, I imagine then, yes, the first call probably returned those values. I don't know if it breaks your app or not, but do you want to go ahead and reinitialize that call for me, or will we have to go through the entire flow again? We'll have to go.
No, I can. I've got quite well versed at doing this. So
okay.
So the way I do it, which you may well have a much slicker way, but the way I do it is. So I have a Notion page, and in there I have this URL that I've saved, and that is, if I put that in, I knew we'd be in the way. If I put that into a browser window, that takes me here. Then, so at the moment I will do this, which is logging into the account that I've got set up in my console.google as the authorized account, because I'm still in test mode with it. It then gives me the code here. I take that code up to ampersand. I take that, I go back to wherever this is. I put that in here. I then reinitialize the call, which works. It gives me the access token. And I then just put that up here. And that's it. That is now the API live again for another hour.
Now you have the access token. Okay, so trying to figure out where that refresh token comes in. And typically with YouTube's at least, I can't just say with YouTube, but with a lot of the Google APIs, it is returned typically in the access token. So now we have to figure out where that refresh token is.
I think it's, I'm sure I remember this. If I remove access.
Yeah, it may just look at the initial call
I'm
there.
pretty sure there's something in my head about it only does it the first time and then you have to do it. You can change the API call to something like force access or something. I think you have to put in the URL somewhere, and that will always give you the token, but I've not done that. So I think, I imagine I'm going to have to go through again now and authorize the apps. Let's just go back.
Yeah, the wonders of APIs and third-party services.
Yeah. So if I put that in, that is giving me a really long one now, isn't it? That's why. So that's reset it, because I don't get that message. So if I allow that, and I take this, and I put that in here. Right, let's see what it gives us now. There you go, refresh token.
Perfect. Okay, so what you're going to want to end up doing is keeping this refresh token. It's going to be important, obviously. So storing that on the user profile or wherever you determine it's necessary to store it, just so you have it.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point, we're going to be passing that refresh token into your refresh token call. Your refresh token call is going to output a access token that will then continuously be able to use. And we're going to be recycling basically that access token.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and try that out. Let's take that refresh token. Let's go plug it in that and see what the output is there.
Plug it into where, sorry?
Take that refresh token and plug it into the refresh token call right below this one. Exactly, yep.
Yep.
Refresh my memory, click the reinitialize call. It gives us the access token. Cool, yeah, perfect. So we'll take that access token and we'll continue, and then this is the new access token. So we'll of course use that. Now I am curious though, if we do this, if we reinitialize the call again, since we've already used this refresh token, I am wondering, this should be the way it works where we shouldn't get any error. We should be able to reinitialize it again, and it should give us a different access token.
Reinitialize the refresh token.
That's right. Yeah, just to see what ends up happening if we're using the same refresh. Yep, perfect. Okay, cool. So not a problem here. What we're going to end up doing on the back end is we need to look. So every single time that we log in, we need to start a countdown, basically. We need to start something on the back end workflow that says, hey, this person only has 3,599 seconds. And then what I tend to do is before the 3,599 seconds, I use a back end workflow and I use the current date and I minus, let's say 100 seconds or an arbitrary amount, but any amount that is less than 3,599. So there is no overlap or any room for error.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is at that point, we're calling the refresh token again and getting a new access token and putting it in where the access token needs to go in the header, and then restarting the timer. So if you want to go ahead and navigate to the backend workflow here, we'll set this up together.
Yeah, one thing to point out before we start is, so in my case, a user may have multiple Google accounts set up in my system at the same time. So, you probably didn't notice it, but when I went to initialize that API in the first place, it took me to that Google authorization screen, and you saw I had a number of different Google accounts.
That's right, yeah.
And so today in my app, I'll only handle one of those. So you just log in with one, and that's the account we're dealing with. But in the future, because you've not really seen my app before, I think you saw it once a long time ago. What it's doing is it allows users to go in, register their Google account, which is the one they want to see the data for from Google Search Console, and then it brings in a load of Google Search Console data and they can analyze it. But there will be users out there that have multiple Google accounts for multiple Google Search Console accounts. So for example, I might have a Google account that is for my personal Google Search Console with only my websites in it. But if I also happen to run an SEO agency, I might have a different Google account with the accounts in it for my clients for their Google Search Console stuff.
Yeah.
So just to be aware that we're going to need to handle the fact that we may end up with multiple tokens for the same user because we're dealing with multiple Google accounts.
Okay, so
and I think
that is a bit interesting.
Yeah, so I thought, so let me show you, because I did do a little bit of fiddling around based on the video I watched with you. Now, did I take these out? I might have done, API keys. So I think I got this from you, where you created a table database to store the keys.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I think, or I thought that you've obviously got user in here. I assumed we could have multiple values for these per user.
I think the safest way to do this would to have each user have their own record in this table. So that is a pretty interesting concept. So we're applying, so one user, one bubble user could have many different Google accounts in this case.
Yeah, I mean, not loads. That at most they're probably going to have 3, let's say, but it's possible.
Yeah, the way that I'd approach that probably would again have different records. So we would have not, because right now we have the bubble user type, which is pointing to a user. I'd probably have our own user type that's pointing, of course, to the user, but is instead maybe looking at the Google Gmail account instead of the bubble user. So that way, when we're doing a refresh, it's looking at the actual account that needs to be refreshed, not the bubble user, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So that would probably be the. I mean, it is interesting. I don't think that's impossible to go ahead and juggle all of these together, though. So that's where I would put my head in, and that's what I would implement.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept is still going to be the same, where we are taking that refresh token, and like we're storing it in this database table here.
Yeah. So and then why don't we do it this way? Why don't we do it just as if there was only one account for now?
Yeah, sure.
And then maybe we revisit this next time and because for day one, I'm only going to let them have one account. But I know that I will immediately, because I've already been chatting to people on the forums. I know there are people out there with multiple accounts for various reasons that want to
sure.
have it set up that way. So,
oh goodness, I have like 10 Google accounts, so I totally get it. Yep, yeah. There's a lot.
So yeah. I suppose it's like, let's say you had a Google account for home and a Google account for work, and we were talking about the Google Calendar API. It's exactly the same thing. You may want a user to be able to see their work calendar and their private calendar, which they have two different Google accounts for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the way that we had mentioned it, with having a user, or rather, I guess, like the email address for that Google account opposed to the bubble user, is going to be the way to go. But like you said, yeah, let's go ahead and just tackle one user, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a problem. And so, yeah, what we're going to do is on the backend workflow, we're going to want to set something up. So when this call actually happens, what we're going to want to do is start that timer. And we say this timer, this workflow will repeat in 3,599 seconds. And we'll then call the refresh token API to then cycle that access token and then restart the cycle again in 3,599 seconds. So what we do, so when we log in, we click that button, right?
Yeah, and again, just to clarify, the reason for doing it this way is exactly the conversation we've just had. So in my app, you will have a user account for my app that has nothing to do with your Google account. So I'm not using social login or anything, so that I can have one user from my perspective have multiple Google properties.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So they log into the app through a different screen. This is where they initially set up that integration to their Google accounts.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I don't know whether we need to do this on my login screen or the Google it, because they'll only see this effectively once the only time they set up their Google account.
Yeah, no, this is the screen that we can do it on for sure. Not a problem. Now, your API call, where does this happen? Does this happen on this page, or does it happen on a backend workflow?
No, it happens on different pages, sometimes on a backend workflow, sometimes on a front end workflow.
Okay, we're looking for the one specifically where we're getting that refresh token. So when we initially sign in, get that access token, and it gives us also the refresh token, where would we find that?
I've not built that yet.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the first step, is when we do sign in, having it to where, we're passing in, or we're getting that information so then we can actually use it.
So let me talk you through my proposed flow. This might make more sense. So okay. If I go to, now I've got to try and remember my own things. So they'll sign up, as in they will register for my site. Upon registration and successful registration, I will send them something or other, an email or whatever. And then they will go to a login page, which is here. So they'll then log in, having registered. And then my thinking was so the first time they log in, I would then take them to this screen.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the way to do it. I know that when I had the YouTube API functionality, very, very similar. They log in with their Bubble account, and then we direct them to a flow where they then connect their Google account. So that's That's right. Yep. From there, the way that I would do it is I would, on button click, I would start a backend workflow. And this backend workflow, this is where we'd get the access token and the refresh token.
Yeah.
So everything would happen on the back end in this case, not really on the page.
Yeah.
Of course, all this information would propagate and eventually they'd see it on the front page. But so it's going to be a series of backend workflows, access token, then refresh token, and then a timer to reset that refresh token.
Yeah.
And so we also do want to ensure that your header is going to not be private, that it is dynamic, that we can actively change the access token after bearer. But yeah, so let's get started here. Let's go ahead and click and start at that workflow here.
For the button click.
Yeah, let's just see what's going on here.
Now you see, I think because I did start following your video and then I thought, forget this because it's getting too complicated. I will wait.
Gotcha.
So let me show you what I've got. So that is Open External Website, which is the call to the Google authorization screen.
Yep. This is where we get our code.
Yep. Now I may need to change this because, oh no, I have changed it. So we might need to change scopes because if we want to tie, well, no, let's not worry about it. Sorry, where I was going with that in my head was going back to the multiple Google accounts thing. We may want to add this to the scopes, their actual Google email, etc., which I don't currently bother with. Okay. So then I think I had this. So get code from page URL, parameter, code, text.
Yep, gets the code. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And then redirect URL.
Yeah, and we send them to a new page in this case.
And then, why is that missing? Whatever that was supposed to be as a step.
What?
Don't know.
I wonder if that was actually, was that, Yeah, we'll get there when we get there. Yeah. No worries.
And then I had this, which again, I think I copied out of your video. I'm pretty sure I did.
Cool. It looks like it gets the Google Access ID, Google Account ID. Step 3 was for the Google Account ID.
Okay, so I'd say I took that out. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the step 6 in this case is going to be when we send a user to that backend workflow, or not send the user, but we send the refresh token and access token, and we have it sort of just wait till the expiration. So not a problem. We need to now set up that backend workflow. So let's go to our backend workflows. Sweet. Oh, you already have the refresh token. I love it. Okay, cool. Sweet. Let's go ahead and add an action where we're going to be doing the refresh token.
Okay.
So let's call the API the refresh token API. We have that anywhere here?
There.
Yep, right there. Perfect. Let's click on that guy. And so now we need to take that user's, so the current user's refresh token.
I wonder if I've still got it. Oh, that might actually be it.
Well, we want to make it dynamic though.
Okay.
So search, so you, as you had saved it in the previous step, we just need to put where we had saved it. Do you want to go look? Yeah, go look at your previous page where we just were, where we actually saved all that information, because we just want to take where we saved it and plug it in there in the refresh token. So is it step 4, I think? So we're saving, so this is going to be API keys. Are there any constraints on this API key, or are we just saving it to the first item? You see where it says things to change, search for API keys?
Yeah.
Yep, click on that. Is there any constraint there? Nope. So we're just searching for API keys first item. So I imagine then you created the API key, the actual record itself. You didn't dynamically create it. You created it in the back end, and then you just said first item, right? Like to make it easier.
I'm a bit lost. I don't know that I did. So what do you mean by? What do you mean? Sorry.
Well, so let's say this is the first time a user's coming onto your app, right? And they're going to click that button. And so if we had, let's say, for 2 users, what this logic is saying is that we're going to look for we're looking for the API key record. We're looking for the first item. We're not creating one, which we probably should be because it's going to be a new user. So instead, we're looking at something that's already been created, and these 2 users are going to overwrite each other's information, right? So we want to make an API key item here instead of making a change to it.
Yeah. Okay.
And we only make it if this user, which we have user equals current user, if this current user, or if rather do a search for API keys constrained by the user count is less than 1. So that means that we're only going to make it if it doesn't exist. Otherwise, then we can make changes to the API key if the count is greater than 1 or so on and so forth. So that's what we're looking at here. That's the first step. We want to make it to where we actually are creating their API key record. So we can go ahead and do that. Before step 4, we can click that arrow and we can say create a new thing.
Create a new thing. Yeah. Let me just check. What am I doing here then? Oh, okay, fine. Yep.
Yeah, and then we're just going to be creating a new API key. Perfect. Yep. And we're going to set all those fields similarly as we had done with step 5.
Okay. So can I copy some from here or?
Yeah, sure. I think, yeah, you had changed that. If you want to control Z so we get all that data back, you're more than welcome to. So yeah, I don't know what happened, but I saw that stuff disappear.
Yeah. Oh, right, I didn't mean to delete it. Right, okay.
No worries. We're almost there. A couple more, I think. Right. Yeah, there we go. So now we'll go ahead and step 3, we'll create a new API key.
Yeah, let me just copy this lot for a minute. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep.
Should I just drop that first expression in here?
Yeah, you do want to specify what we're modifying though. So you will want to select the Google API key. So click that. And then access token. That's what I meant. And now you'll paste it. Yep. And you want to do that for all the others as well.
Okay. So result step 2, access token. Okay. And then what's the next one?
Let's do refresh token.
Okay. Then I need to go and get it from here. Refresh. So this one, yeah?
Yep. Sweet. And lastly, I don't think I had seen it. We're going to want to create an expiration. We'll want to add. Oh yeah, my bad. I did not see it. Yep. Click that one. Perfect. And that's going to be a result of step 2's expiration. Expires in. Yep. And then you should just be able to click off it, I believe, right? Or are you saving it? I think you may be saving that as a text and it's coming in as a number. I'm not sure. Click on more and can we convert to a number? Or it's already a number, isn't it? Here, click on more though. And scroll down. What's it giving us? I wonder what we're saving. I wonder what it's expecting because it's expecting something other than what we're giving it right now, which would be a text. So go into your record real quick, into your data. Yep, here, then expiration is a date. Yeah, we just want to make that a text.
Okay. So should I just delete that and create a new one?
Exactly, yeah.
Because I think that's not moved, has it? Right. because I think I've also confusingly followed another one. So we want it as a number, don't we?
A number or a text, but yeah, either one should work. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, let's go back to that workflow.
There you go. It's doing it now.
Cool. And let's just add the user. So user will equal current user. Perfect. Cool. And now we need to set some conditional. So only when, and we're going to do a search for API keys. Do a search for. And we're looking for the API keys. We're going to add the constraint where user equals current user. And we're going to go, that's a good constraint. We don't need to do anything else, but go back to that red text there. And where it says more, we're going to click on count is less than 1. Cool. So now this will only create if there is not a user that has an API key. So that's what we're looking for. So we don't create too many, we don't overwrite, so on and so forth. So now we have a dynamic record being created when a user logs in. Perfect. You could delete step number 5. We won't be needing to make any changes, at least not right now. Focusing on just when a user signs in. So that's fine.
So get rid of the lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall I get rid of this as well?
Yeah. I'd probably get rid of that one.
Okay.
Cool. And now we're just going to send some of this information to the refresh token, the API workflow that we have on the back end. So let's go ahead and click here to add an action. Step 5 it would be. And yeah, we don't really need step 4, seeing that not yet, at least. We can always do stuff, but not right now. So we'll go plugins, or we can just type in refresh, I believe. So actually, I'm sorry, not plugins. I believe custom events. Oh, yeah. And schedule an API workflow. And the workflow is going to be the refresh token. And the scheduling date is going to be current date. And then we're going to be adding the 3,599 seconds. So we're going to click that and then add seconds. It's going to be a result of step 3.
All right, okay.
Access token, or I'm sorry, no, expired date time rather. And click on more. And then we're going to now be, so this is what I do. I subtract now, let's say 200 seconds.
Okay.
So no, right where we were actually, where it says plus seconds, we're just going to write minus 200 or negative 200.
Yep.
Cool. And so now what we're saying is when this user logs in this amount of time, we're going to go ahead and get a new refresh token.
Yeah.
So now on the back end, let's go to the backend workflow where we have our refresh token, where we're sending this information to. Cool. Now we need to do a search for the API keys where the user is the current user's first item.
Okay, so get rid of this.
Get rid of that. Yep.
Okay.
Cool. So let's insert some dynamic info. Let's do a search for. API keys. Yep. And the constraint is user equals current user. Perfect. And we're going to be looking for the first item. There will only be one item where the user is the current user that has an API key. So we'll just specify that in the red text, first item. And then refresh token. And so now what's going to end up happening, we're going to want to make these changes again to the user, exactly what we just modified, the API keys first item, where the user is the current user. So step 2 would be make changes to. So make changes to data. So go to data things, make changes to thing. Yep. Do a search for. We're looking for that API key again, where the user is the current user. Sweet. Things to change is going to be the first item. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change that field. So we're always getting back an access token. So that's what we're going to be saving.
Okay.
Result of step 1. And it gives us the access token. Perfect. And I would also then save the expiration once more. So let's do one more field where we're saving that expiry date time. Perfect. We're not done, but what we have done, yeah, we're almost done.
Not simple, is it, this?
It's not, yeah, man, they make it complicated. Oh, geez, but that's why we're here. But cool. So what we're doing right now is when a user logs in, we're saying, hey, look at this date time. It expires here. So what we're going to do 200 seconds before it expires, we're going to send them here to get a new refresh token. Once we do get that refresh token, we get an access token. We're going to save that access token. And then lo and behold, this is going to keep repeating itself. So one last time, we're going to go ahead on step 3. We're going to schedule an API workflow for the refresh token.
Right.
So let's go to custom events. Schedule API, yep. Refresh token. And the scheduling date is going to be exactly as we had just done it, current date plus the expiry date time minus 200 seconds.
What did we do? So
plus seconds.
Yep.
And result of, we could do either result of step 1 or step 2, but let's just do step 2 because we're saving this information. We're confident it's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do the expired date time right there.
Yep.
And then one last time, we're going to add seconds. Minus 200. Or any number you give it, but yep, there you go.
Yep.
And so now when a user signs in, they're going to be basically their access token, their refresh token is going to be put in a successive loop here, where all we're doing is we're going to be recycling that access token or that refresh token for an access token, and so on and so forth. And so this is how we're going to be able to manage the user's information, make sure that they're not just randomly kicked out after an hour. So the last thing, because what we had just done is we actually stored that access token, and the access token is used on a myriad of calls, right? So what we have to do, I want you to show me where one of your calls exists, where somebody would need to use an access token to place a call.
So here as an example, so this is one that's in the front end. So let me have a look. So here you go. So when they access this page, it triggers this call.
Okay. Where is that call? So did this happen on a workflow where this call is made?
Does it happen on a workflow? No. So it just happens. You're making me think now how I set this up. I think it just happens on this page when they go to it. I think
so this because what we're saying is we're shifting this Google Search Console get keyword rows, right? Click on Google Search Console self real quick for me. Okay, and so what we're seeing here is that we're using an external. Okay, can you go to your call in your API connector where this is present? Okay, that's right. Your header is a shared header. It's a pub. So you scroll all the way up to the top. We have to go all the way to the very beginning where we have the key authorization bearer. It's a shared header. So we're using a static author. You're going to hate me, man. You do what you should do, which is use a shared header when you have a bunch of calls. Totally not a problem. The issue is we can't make that private, I don't think, or public rather. We can't actively modify that. So the access token that we're currently using is going to be somebody's access token. Let's say one user gets on and another user gets on. They're not able to use their access token. They're using the one at the very top here.
Right. Okay.
So it's not the end of the world. It's a bit tedious, but you see where under access token, it says add header. Now we're going to just need to make sure that every call has its own header. We're authorization bearer, then their access token.
Right. Okay.
So similar as you had just seen on the properties panel for the API call, when we clicked on it and it showed you the parameters that you could modify, we need to add that authorization bearer, so on and so forth, as one of the parameters that we can modify. Because we saved their access token, we're constantly passing in that access token, refresh token, access token, so on. We need to use that access token in place of what you have currently inside the header.
Right. But this doesn't mean that I'm going to have to do some sort of workflows in the back end every time I want to make that call for the user. So what I've got already built in that front end will still work. Is here that's the problem, is it?
Yeah. Right. On the front end, the only thing that you're going to need to change, or at least in the design tab, not the front end, but on the design tab at the very least, where those parameters do pop up, you're going to need to make sure that we're seeing the authorization. And then the value for the access token. So do me one favor before I give you any crazy information that may or may not be right. I want you to do me a favor. So where it says key authorization and value bearer, I want you to put brackets around bearer. Can we make that a variable?
Brackets or those?
No, the brackets, the square ones, or rectangle, whatever. A square can be a rectangle can't be a square, whatever.
So those, yeah.
Yeah, okay, click out of that. Does that give us? That does not give us the option to make it a variable, unfortunately. So, yep, like I had said, he totally did what Bubble lets you do, which is set a shared header for sure. But since everything's going to be dynamic and we're dealing with multiple users, unfortunately, we got to go through all our calls and add the header in individually instead of using a shared one.
So through every single one of these.
Let's start with just get keywords so I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So yep, type in authorization there.
Just think I've got to do it the American way, haven't I? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it typed.
No. Yeah.
We'll type in bearer, and I would capitalize the A and make sure that B is capitalized too. Yeah.
Let me just copy it from here. Save me misspelling and I think, yeah.
No worries. We will need, unfortunately, we'll need that access token that we did already instantiate because we're going to need to reinitialize this call for it to work. If we make any changes to it. So scroll back up to the top where you have your shared header. Let's grab that. Yep. And let's plug it in there and deselect private. Make sure it's not private. And now let's reinitialize it. And it's probably looking because we're using two headers. We're using two keys, and it's probably thinking that's really weird.
Yeah, unless it's been on the call a while, unless it's all expired, which is entirely possible.
Let's do me a favor. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, you could. Let's go with what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's probably expired. Would be my guess.
Gotcha. If that's the case, then we do need to rework it. Before we proceed any further, I would recommend removing the shared header. just to reduce any kind of conflict between the two.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, now we'll go ahead and I would also go back to your Google Me account or whatever it is where you remove access to this application so we can get a fresh start from it.
Yeah. Okay. Glad this is so simple.
Yeah, they don't make it any more simple, do they? The walk in the park. Yeah, imagine having to code this out though. Oh boy.
Well, coding it out would be easy because clever people have just built a library for it. So you just copy and paste the library and then it does it all for you.
That's true. That's true. We do like clever people.
Yeah. So because I was looking at it the other day, because I was thinking of, because you can do Node, can't you, within some parts of Bubble? So I was wondering
For
whether
the plugins, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering whether or not to try and copy the Node version of all of this guff and drop that into do it that way. But I decided that might be even more painful. I'm beginning to wonder. Right. Right, where was I here? Maybe that's something someone needs to. Oh, that's gone. Why am I doing that? Oh, right. Right, so I've removed that. Do that. Maybe someone in Bubble thing needs to build this in some sort of way that people can just download the Node script or something. Anyway.
I'm sure in the next year or two, Bubble is going to be making a crazy transition to make even those that code find it easier to use.
Yeah. There you go. So okay. So where were we? Down here, weren't we? So if I copy that in there, let's see what happens. There you go. Works now.
Let's click save here. And let's go back to where this all started. Let's go look at those parameters. When we clicked on that button, we got to see the properties panel and we got to under your design tab. Let's go back over there. Yeah. Click on Google Search Console. Now you see your header authorization.
Got you.
This is where you're going to be including your dynamic data, the API keys that we stored. So to show you, go ahead and get rid of this here. You will want to keep bearer. Well, actually, I do apologize. Maybe not. How did we save it? Does it save bearer? I can't remember if I don't think it does.
Okay.
So two ways of going about this. We can do where we keep bearer in this field here, and then we enter the dynamic data. Or when we actually initially sign in that user, you can put, and I think it's like step 2 where we're saving the API key, right? You could say API key equals, you'll manually type out bearer, and then you'll then select the dynamic data result of step 2 API key. So the way that I did it is this way, where I typed out bearer, and then after bearer, I inserted the dynamic data.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and do just that. Go ahead and
do I need space and then insert dynamic data?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to do a search for an API key.
Yeah.
And user equals user, or user equals current user.
Yep.
Close out of that. First item, access token. And there you go. And so this, as fun as this was, you're gonna have to do this for all your other calls, which I am sorry for, of course. But At least this is the solution.
At least it works this way.
Yeah. And so now what you can do is you can expect that if you have multiple users, they're going to be using their own access token instead of one shared one, which is the idea. So there you go. That's how you do it.
Got you. That's quite a good time. I'm glad actually we did this tonight then, because I've got to rebuild quite a lot of this. So given we've got a couple of minutes, if you're all right, this isn't asking you for it. I was just going to show you how I got around a problem. So,
oh yeah, I'd love to know.
You might or might not remember. So I have got rather, this problem here where if I go back to the get keywords and I show you this, then show you the raw data. If you remember, I've got this problem where you get this keys.
Oh, yes. How did you solve this?
Keyword. Well, I found someone far cleverer than me to solve it for me.
I love this.
Let me sort of show you again the problem, just, and I suppose it might be handy for anyone else watching, is the problem with that, where it gives you the keys and the first item is always the keyword and the last item is always the URL, is when you're in a repeating group, as an example, you can't say, give me, let's find it, keys. You want to be able to say, give me the clicks, impression, CTR position, URL, keyword, but you have to do this keys first item to get the keyword, because it is always the first item in the key. Yep. That's not so bad within an RG, but as soon as you try and do things like filter, sort, etc., you end up in a world of pain because of that first item business, because quite often Bubble will just go, so you only want the first item, and all you get is one thing, not the first item of all the keys. So you end up in a mess. So what I have got, which now let me see if I can find the test page, is on here. I've now got this plugin, and it allows me to go in and say, okay, go and do your stuff and go and get the data from the Google API, same as everywhere else. And then here, I now, for my repeating groups, as an example, I say the source of that data is this plugin rather than anything else.
Wonderful.
And then in here, what you can now see, current sales API, my Google search, and if I click here, you can see keyword, URL, clicks, impressions, CTR position.
That's beautiful.
So basically, I had a guy build me a small plugin that is a bit of JavaScript, and it just takes the JSON response you get back from Google and it parses it so that it splits those keys out into keyword and URL.
That's amazing. That's actually really, really cool. I love the, did you hire this, or did anybody just come to you and say, I'll do this for you?
So I had a pretty good idea of what I needed to do, because I can hack about in JavaScript. I'm just not very good at it, but I knew that with JavaScript, I could do this. So I'd been chatting to a guy on the forum called Jared Gibb, and I'd spoken to him a few times, and he really knows what he's doing. He's built quite a few plugins and this, that, and the other. So he takes on some freelance work. He's got a full-time job, but he takes on some Bubble free. So I reached out to him, had a video session with him, talked him through what the problem was, what I thought the solution was. And he said, yeah, fine. And it took him like an hour to build.
No way. That's so cool.
So it cost very little money.
That's very, very neat. I love the Bubble community. There's a bunch of people, a bunch of wizards, if you will. I had a very similar JSON problem where it returned unreadable text, really. And I had somebody on the forum say, I'll help you out. And he built this really cool thing that parsed it and made it readable. And it was very, very neat. So glad to see that it is working for you.
Yeah. So that's this plugin here. And it just, you can see it. I mean, it just, where is it being here? It just goes through basically and runs just a small chunk of JavaScript, and that's it. That just sorts the keys out.
Oh my goodness, I love that. That's amazing. Well, I'm really happy for you. That's cool, because what a problem that was.
Solved a real pain, because if you remember us going through, we were trying to find a way around it in Bubble, but whereas this, an hour's work done. So
amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Super, super wicked. Well, I'm super grateful for you, and of course, I'm glad that we also were able to solve the problem of the refresh and access token, and then also getting it to be dynamic for you today in these plugins.
Yeah, no, that's really helped. So I'm breaking the back of. I don't know. I've got any well, I might find some, but so far I think we've now cracked. I think all because I had this problem with the date range picker was causing me grief. This problem with the Search Console was causing me grief. The API thing was obviously causing me grief because it didn't exist. So I think I've probably broken the back of for now all my technical problems. So I should be able to just crack on and get most of the rest of the build finished now, he says optimistically.
I love that. Well, in the event you run into anything, you know where to find us, of course. Don't hesitate to hop on in. But cool. Let's we're gonna move into after office hours, where if you are a member, a developer member of Pro NoCoders, you can join us off camera. So if you have any sensitive projects or client projects or anything else, we'll help you with that. But thanks for those watching at home. And until next time, you guys have a great one. And then somewhere, because I'm sharing, there we go.